There we go. In your booklet, Slothfulness, the section on slothfulness. It is amazing, if you've gone over this, how many proverbs there are on laziness or slothfulness, depending on the translation. And I don't think we'll get through them all, but I want to move fairly quickly on some of these, just so we do get through most of them. There's some really good warnings here and good messages for everyone, lazy or not. As we go through some of this, don't just apply it to regular physical labor or not. Apply it also to your work in the Lord. Apply it to your efforts in working for the Lord. Because we can be lazy in that department too. You don't have to be lazy in everything, but we can be lazy in some things. And so that's very, very important. Paul says in Titus 2:14 that we are to be a purified people, zealous for good works, and therefore truly the importance of working hard for the Lord. Let's start with Proverbs 12, verse 11. He who tills his land will be satisfied with bread, but he who follows frivolity, or some versions chases fantasies, is devoid of understanding. ESV says, whoever works his land will have plenty of bread, but he who follows worthless pursuits lacks sense. And NIV uses the phrase chases fantasies, and that person has no sense. All right, what were some of your observations? What do you think stands out as far as the primary message there, the primary warning even?
There are things that seem fun, but they're not profitable.
Good. Are there degrees in that? Yeah. I have run into, I can't tell you how many young people who said, boy, did I make a huge mistake. I was just so excited about this particular degree program they had in the university, and it took me 5 years to graduate, and I walked out and realized there was no jobs for it. But I sure do enjoy it. Yeah. So now doing something else because it didn't work out. And of course there's lots of things like that we all might enjoy. I would have enjoyed making a living playing basketball, but I couldn't get anybody to hire me. I just can't figure that out. At any rate, there's all those things that are that way, and so the warning of following after fantasies or chasing after something that is frivolous and isn't really going to make a living. Anything else on that? Yeah, John.
This kind of verse reminds me of people that are always looking for easy ways to get rich quick or do these things. I'm going to shortcut this and shortcut that. Right. And they spend half the effort that they're spending trying to shortcut everything, just putting their effort towards something that was worthwhile, and they would be satisfied, but they can't understand that concept.
Absolutely. Again, following after something, and you just can't get through your head that the process of gaining wealth isn't following these types of things. I can't ever read this proverb without thinking about a premarital session I did with a couple many years ago, and I asked a typical question that I ask in a premarital, looking at the guy. I said, so what is your work and what will you be doing in order to provide for your family? And he said, I shoe horses. I said, you shoe horses? He says, yeah, I shoe horses. I said, do you make enough of a living shoeing horses that you could take care of your wife and children? Nope. Not a very good business, apparently. Well, have you thought about doing something else? I shoe horses, and that's what I'm going to do. I looked at her and said, don't marry this man. You are going to be very, very sorry. What a stubborn human being. She was the bank manager. She'll take care of the rest. I'll shoe horses. I'm not a part of that generation that puts up with that kind of stuff, and neither should a woman. All right, so anyway, those kinds of things. Look at chapter 14, 23. In all labor there is profit, but idle chatter leads only to poverty. Christian Standard Bible, I like how they've ended this one. All labor there is profit. Endless talk leads only to poverty. All right? Or the other versions, all hard work brings a profit, but mere talk leads only to poverty. So what would you say primary message is here? Contrasting profit.
I think it's about focus. You know, a lot of people don't focus on the way they make a living, or they don't focus on scripture, or they don't focus on, and you're talking about the duality of this, that you got to focus. And without that, you're just not going to get very far. You get easily distracted by other things. And it can be a great conversation about football or basketball or anything else, but it's not going to get the job.
Yeah,
You got to remember why you're there.
Yeah, just talk. Right.
It reminds me a lot of people that have maybe a lot of anxiety about a project. They talk far more about what they're going to do than what it actually takes them to time.
Jump in there and get done. Get started. Yeah, it is interesting. The most anxiousness and worry that we have is usually before we start a task, instead of just jumping in and getting going with. Once you get going with it, then pretty soon a lot of that goes aside. Yeah.
It's the difference between people that might have a lot of good ideas and can talk about things that they would like to do, but don't actually produce the difference of being able to actually put in the work to accomplish something more than just think it up.
That's where you need a good partner. Yeah, you may have a lot of vision and a lot of this, but if you don't have somebody, if you don't have an ability to even do that, then you need to find a different work or whatever. But just a lot of talk as far as about what you're going to do and what you're going to try to get done is not going to work.
Stubborn isn't a bad thing. If you're trying to do something that's really hard and other people wash out at it all the time, if you're stubborn and too dumb to quit, you might succeed.
Well, there you go. You go ahead with that one. I'm going to quit.
When I told people I was too stubborn and just too dumb to quit,
Yeah, there you go.
eventually you stumble on it.
Jesus said in Matthew 23:3 concerning the Pharisees, they say and do not do. They say and do not do. So in religious matters, that's especially important. Look at 13 verse 4. The soul of a lazy man desires and has nothing, but the soul of the diligent shall be made rich. You might notice the Septuagint translates, in desires every idle man is occupied, but the soul of the diligent shall be made rich. What's the problem here? That's the main criticism here of the one who's lazy.
It's a bit foolish, and really absurd too, that those who desire gains and everything but hate the pains to get those gains. Just not fun.
You notice what this the lazy person is involved in? What's going on in their head?
Covetousness.
Yeah, they're just thinking about what they want. And they get absorbed to what they want, but they're not going to take the next step and actually do any diligent labor. And the person has to be diligent. You know, that word diligence used all the way through the Bible concerning spiritual things and physical things. And there is a very, very strong self-discipline that is needed to be diligent. I know Eric and I have talked about a couple of, Eric is into training young preachers now too, and he's run into some of the same things I've run into, where a young man thinks that this is going to be a fairly easy job and there's not a whole lot to it, and then after a few months you're looking at him and going, why aren't you working? Why aren't you putting the effort in? Oh, one guy said, I think I better do something else that doesn't make me work so hard. And I'm thinking, world, to the world, don't hire him for anything. Don't let him come in. He thinks there's a job out there where he doesn't have to work hard. Doesn't have to be diligent. Goodness, without self-discipline, it's a train wreck. So a man reaps what he's going to sow, what he sows. You don't sow, you're not going to reap. I don't care what business you're in. You don't sow, you're not going to reap. And there's a very, very thing. Notice that in the Septuagint, in desires, every idle man is occupied. What's an idle man occupied with? He's occupied with desires, but he doesn't do anything that's diligent to do something about it. Look at Proverbs 21, verse 25 and 26. Proverbs 21, 25 and 26. The desire, or some versions, craving of the lazy man kills him, for his hands refuse to labor. He covets greedily all day long, but the righteous gives and does not spare. All right, this is similar to the previous, but he adds some lessons, some wisdom to it that wasn't in the previous proverb. Still have that same craving and desires that he's filled with, but what's the contrast?
These people are enemies to themselves. They may starve themselves by this kind of an attitude.
Yeah, he's his own worst enemy, isn't he? He gets absorbed with what he wants, but he has no either desire or ability to even get there, and refuses to do something about it. All right. What's the other side of the coin? What's the righteous do? Yeah, the righteous isn't just he gets. There's a different opposite here. You would almost thought the contrast was, but the righteous works hard so he can gain possessions. No, the righteous works hard so he can give to those who have need. So this guy's always desiring and doesn't get anything. And the righteous person isn't thinking about what he's going to give. He's thinking about how he can work so that he can take care of others. That's exactly what Paul said in Ephesians chapter 4 and verse 28 when he talked about labor with your hands so that you can give to the one who has need. There is more to laboring with our hands than just taking care of ourselves. We're to look out and take care of others too, who are unable to work, unable to care for themselves. So the righteous goes completely the other side of the coin, not living for desires.
It doesn't actually say the righteous are rich. It may be like the people that were commended out of your deep poverty.
Yeah.
You did without to provide. And we see that in India, in countries when the guy came and talked to us.
So that's what the Macedonians did in 2 Corinthians chapter 8. He said they went beyond their ability even to care for the needy saints. Good. Look at 12:27. The lazy man does not roast what he took in hunting, but diligence is man's precious possession. CSB, but to a diligent person his wealth is precious. Okay? So what is, again, another contrastive proverb? What is the lazy man doing, first off? What do you learn from him? Or learn what he's doing?
He's kind of roasting meat off the back of others. He's giving, probably somebody's giving it to him, and he's roasting.
Really? Actually, yeah. He actually went out hunting, surprisingly enough. and he got game, and he brought it back, but he didn't cook it. So, he's wasteful. That's one thing, absolutely. All right. What's another lesson from it? No?
He's not finishing the job he started, and so he just loses all the progress he made.
Good, good. He jumps in, makes an attempt, but didn't finish what he started. You know people that way? Yep. Been that way sometimes? Yep. You jump in and get going on something and not finish the job. You got to finish the job in order to get the benefit of it. Never forget a guy was going to church where I was and saw him walking on the side of the road one Friday afternoon, and I stopped by to pick him up, and I said, "Hey, what's going on?" He says, "Oh man, I got a job, and I just told him I wasn't coming in today. I worked 4 straight days. That was enough." I'm going, you keeping that job? Probably not, but man, I mean, 4 days in a row? Are you kidding me? I wanted to stop the car, open the door, and say, "Get out." Good grief. What kind of stuff is this? Anyway, it's the idea, too, of having certain possessions, but not using them as you should, not using them to benefit you. Too lazy to actually accomplish anything.
When it says diligence is man's precious possession, what is your most precious possession? It's time. And you don't get much of it. So if you use it wisely, it is a precious possession. It's something that you should say, I've got time to do something for the Lord, let's get it done, or let's do something for my neighbor.
I've always thought that, as much as I hated it at the time, but other than teaching me about God, the best thing my dad gave me was diligence. And I think the same thing with my 4 boys. I never had to worry about whether they would work hard. They're going to work hard. They outworked anybody in any job they went to. And that started because that was an important part of our household. You are going to be diligent. You will complete your task, and you're going to work hard. And that's just the way it is. And those are important things. They're a prized possession of human beings today. Okay? Look on now at chapter 26 and verse 13 through 16. This is always an interesting one. The lazy man says, "As a lion in the road, a fierce lion is in the streets. As a door turns on its hinges, so does the lazy man on his bed. The lazy man buries his hand in the bowl. It wearies him to bring it back to his mouth. The lazy man is wiser in his own eyes than 7 men who can answer sensibly." All right. There's at least 4 things there, 4 lessons there, or 4 principles that describe this lazy man and why he is such a disaster in his life. Let's go over them. What's one of them you would see? You'd say,
Excuses.
a little loud.
Excuses.
Yeah, excuses. And they're really good excuses. You know, there's a lion in the streets. Oh, okay. That's good. I think I better not go because something might happen. You never know. If I have to get up and go off to work, who knows what could happen? And I mean, things are dangerous out there. I just need to be careful. And on and on and on it goes. Rationalizing your laziness and telling yourself it's okay because this would just be too dangerous and too hard to do. What's another? What's the picture of the door mean? What do you think, Kathy?
Well, it's time to get up. He just rolls over.
That's right. He never moves beyond his own sphere of rolling. That's exactly right. He's just like a door that never gets beyond the hinges. It never goes any further. He just like that. And about the time he thinks he ought to get up, well, just roll over and go back to sleep, and never does anything. What about it? What's another one?
This next one is really,
Pardon?
this next verse is really way over the top if you can't get your hand from your plate to your mouth.
Oh, this is just too much work. It's just too hard. It's too difficult. You know, he's got the opportunity right in front of him, and he just can't take that next step and do something about it. Absolutely amazing. And then finally, after all of those things, the worst part about him is 7 people can help try to admonish him and correct him. He's smarter than every one of them. He is not going to listen to them because he knows better than everybody around him. It's pretty unlikely when you have that many people telling you you're messing up and you just go, no, you're the one that's messed up, not me. I'm never messed up. I've got it all together. And you're failing every step of the way. So pretty amazing. Solomon has these things down pat in that way. All right, go to the next one. And this is a different category, the sluggard in relationship to his job. As vinegar to the teeth and smoke to the eyes, so is the lazy man to those who send him. This is when we need Bob and Jane here, and Bob can talk about hiring people. 10 verse 26. Chapter 10 verse 26. Okay? This is kind of spoken from the perspective of an employer.
He's not fit to be employed for sure.
Pardon?
He is not fit to be employed.
Well,
he can't be relied upon to do anything.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, how does the person who has employed him feel about it? It's just miserable. I mean, the guy is just a pain. It's like, and he gives 2 examples. It's like drinking sour wine, which is unripe grapes and just puckers the lips, or it's like a fire, a campfire, and you get smoke in your eyes, and all this. This guy is absolutely a misery to be with. And so he says, you try to send a lazy man or use a lazy man to do a job, you are likely to be sorry for it, and it's going to be painful. Yeah.
I love the saying, when you have one boy, you've got a boy. When you have 2, you've got a half a boy. And that's what this guy does. He makes everybody else lazy.
Yes, that's true. That is true. I have started many a job where I got myself in trouble with other workers because I was working too hard. They didn't like it. So that's the way it is. All right, chapter 18, verse 9. He who is slothful in his work is a brother to him who is a great destroyer. All right, similar to the previous, but a little different analogy. What's he telling us here?
Property they don't own. Somebody who's lazy in their work is essentially stealing from their employer.
Okay, good. So both are destructive. Both these individuals are absolutely destructive. They destroy, of course, a job site. They destroy a company. But you could apply it in a lot of situations, couldn't you? Lazy man destroys, name some relationships and situations, destroys. Pardon? Marriages, that's right. A lazy man destroys marriages, destroys families, destroys the government, destroys the economy.
Destroys his children.
Yeah, destroys his children. He's destructive in every way. Probably the lazy man would not say, oh, Yeah, me and a person who destroys things are one and the same, but that's exactly what the Proverbs say. That the two of you, that you do the same thing as a person who just goes around destroying things and destroying property. You destroy people and destroy relationships because of your laziness. One of the worst things a woman can marry is a lazy man, no doubt. All right, and then the next one, 12 verse 24. 12 verse 24. The hand of the diligent will rule, but the lazy man will be put to forced labor. Okay? So start with the lazy man. How does he get put to forced labor?
If everybody follows the rule, if he doesn't work at WT, then he will finally
Have to work.
be forced to labor.
Yeah, okay. That's true. And when you get it in Israel's day, if you were lazy and you went in debt and you couldn't eat, you had to sell yourself as a slave if you were going to survive. And so his laziness turns right around on him, and he is going to have to be forced to work. And as you said, if people keep bailing him out, he'll never learn. And we'll see some of that in the some of the next passages. All right, and then the next, yeah.
The diligent person has a lot more options.
Yes.
As far as ruling, I mean, he has more control over what he does.
Yeah, that's right. A diligent person, if something fails, he's not afraid to get back up and figure something else out. He's going to labor hard, and Lord willing, Lord blesses him, he'll be able to make it all right, and that's what God asks us to do. Very good. All right, the result of being a sluggard. Next category, consequences of this. We've already seen some of those, but he gets into some different things. This one in 15 verse 19. 15:19. The way of the lazy man is like a hedge of thorns, but the way of the upright is a highway. All right? How does he envision the way of a lazy man, the life of a lazy man?
Don't move very fast.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what I mean? You're going through, all of your life is like just a hedge of thorns. I've got a couple of those holly bushes out front, and I don't like to get near them. You can't imagine having to walk through that. He's made a path for his life that is extremely difficult, and it's the result of his own laziness and the consequences of it. It leads to a rough life. One of the mistakes lots of parents make is always bailing their kids out so they don't have to walk through the hedge of thorns. And it is one of the worst things ever. When we were growing up, me and Wayne and Kent, so when we were growing up, if the teacher called home about how we acted, we got the punishment at the school, and then we got beat when we got home. Today, the opposite takes place. The parent punishes the teacher for noticing that their kid was a jerk. So it's just, my goodness, that's a good way to teach them. Never have to suffer the hedge of thorns, the consequences of your life, and it'll get to the point where everything will fall apart for them.
It's not always a smooth ride.
No.
But the attitude,
General rule,
the
right?
attitude of
Yeah.
the upright should be, even though it's a narrow path and few find it, it is the highway to where I want to go.
Yeah.
And it's okay because I'm gonna use whatever path I go.
Well, in contrast to a hedge of thorns, it's a highway. And yes, there's always struggles, but he's using a contrastive situation here where one way is extremely difficult, one way in contrast is much, much easier.
Could you also think this as a way of mindset?
Of course, that's. Yes, I think I'm going to die.
But if I'm like, go clean your room and you're going to get a report after, he's so quick to it.
Yeah.
And it's no big deal. Your mindset is it a hedge of thorns or is it going to be a highway to better things?
Yeah. I always said, go clean your room, and if you don't, you're going to get killed. So, that's just the way it is. Now, how happy you're going to be. Don't you gripe about it. Here we go. All right. So, good. Chapter 19, verse 7. 19, verse 7. This is an interesting. All the brothers of the poor hate him. How much more do his friends go far from him? He may pursue them with words, yet they abandon him. Now, in this passage, you got to know something about the general rule of poverty in the book of Proverbs, which we've already seen some of that. It's not accidental poverty here. It's poverty that he has brought on himself from not working. So what's the end result here?
Drag on everybody else. He's probably always taking resources, blowing opportunities, and just it's frustrating.
Just absolutely endless. He's chasing his friends. He's chasing his family. He's pursuing them to give to me, give to me, but never does anything to solve his problem. I can't tell you how many times I've had somebody, of course, having an office at the church building most of my life, and somebody comes by and says, I'm down and out, and I need thus and so, and whatever. Will you give me money? And I said, well, do you have family? Yeah. Well, have you asked your family? Oh, they won't help me anymore. I think you just revealed the problem, sir. And of course, my next statement is, well, why don't you get a job? Oh, I've had jobs. They keep telling me what to do, and man, it gets tiresome. Yeah, okay. Bye-bye. You need to get hungry, and a little hungrier than you are, apparently. So that's the thing. They just keep wearing anybody close to them out because they're unwilling to do something about it. All right, 19 verse 15. Laziness casts one into a deep sleep, and an idle person will suffer hunger. That's pretty interesting. Now we're getting into a psychological effect. What's laziness do here?
Make you think you can't do anything.
Yeah, the more you don't work, the more you don't want to work. The more you can get depressed, the more it can work on your head. God didn't create us that way. Even in the Garden of Eden before the fall, God gave Adam a job. It's important for us psychologically to work, and sometimes it means we have to push ourselves, maybe, and force ourselves to get up and get going, and that's been the implication all the way through this. Yeah, Wayne?
When Eric did the thing on trying to study with an atheist, he says, I'm struggling with something. How hard are you struggling?
Yeah.
Are you actually putting in the effort to do that? And if you don't, what it does is you render yourself clueless.
Yeah.
Something will jump right in front of you that is, God has given you an opportunity to maybe do something that will help you along your way, and it's gone.
Yeah, I love that analogy that Eric gave. It was really, really good. Well, I'm just struggling with some things in the Bible. Well, what are you doing about it? Not a blooming thing. Well, then you apparently aren't struggling very hard, are you? God asks us to seek and search and diligently seek after him. And you're not doing that and then complaining that you think there's something wrong with the Bible. Yeah, right. That's the way it is again. Proverbs 24, verse 30 through 34. This is probably the one of the key passages on laziness that's talked about lots of times. I went by the field of the lazy man, and by the vineyard of the man devoid of understanding. And there it was, all overgrown with thorns. Its surface was covered with nettles. Its stone wall was broken down. When I saw it, I considered it well. I looked on it and received instruction. A little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to rest, so shall your poverty come like a prowler, and your need like a armed man. All right, a lot of cool things to learn here. What would be some of the things you learn from this proverb?
It doesn't take big things to get it away. Little things, a little of the fun. A little something.
Yeah, just a little. That's all. Just a little laziness here and there. What's that tell you about what things around your house, things in your life, spiritual things in your life? What does it naturally do when left to its own? Just dominoes, it just deteriorates. Everything. Your spirituality is going to deteriorate if you don't stay on top of it. Your marriage is going to deteriorate if you don't stay on top of that. You don't always invest the time needed. Your children are going to have problems if you don't invest your time in them. Your job, your house, your inside of the house, your outside of the house, everything that you're talking about naturally disintegrates unless we pay attention to it and do something about it. And it just, there's an elder of mine, the first elder I ever worked under as a preacher. He said to me concerning preaching, he said, it's a poor farmer who doesn't have something to do. And the same is true with a preacher. And I said, that is absolutely true. It is a poor farmer, it's a poor preacher, it's a poor anybody who says, well, I don't really have anything to do. There is tons of things to do. And you're just not opening your eyes to see it. Wait.
God didn't make it.
No.
He made us a garden. It's sin caused all of these problems.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have poison ivy.
Well, you're getting off the subject here a little bit. Yeah. We have to be diligent in keeping up on these things. And it is interesting how you use that word little. Little sleep, little slumber, little folding the hands. That's where it starts, just a little bit. And it's very dangerous. 30 verse 15. This is an interesting one. The leech has two daughters. Unfortunately, I didn't get verse 16 should be a part of that. I have no idea why I didn't get that in there, but I just neglected it. The leech has two daughters, give and give. Give and give. There are three things that are never satisfied. 4 never say enough. All right, here's 4 things that never say enough. The grave, Sheol. Secondly, the barren womb. Thirdly, the land that never satisfied, the land never satisfied with water. And 4, the fire that never says enough. Now that may seem odd. Well, why is he saying that? Because he's using these 4 examples that are typical of mankind who is never satisfied with earthly things. He's just always saying, give, give. He's like the leech who wants more, and that is what he produces. So here's the man who cares about physical things and never sees that he and Ecclesiastes teaches this. It's just never enough. There's never enough. The one who loves silver will not be satisfied with silver. Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verse 10. All right. 20, verse 13. Here's the remedy. Do not love sleep, lest you come to poverty. Open your eyes, and you'll be satisfied with bread. Pretty simple. And we've talked about the opposite of that, but that's pretty simple. Quit sleeping. It's time to sleep, quit sleeping. Open your eyes, get to work. Step out, let's go. Get it done. I think most of us have found as well that, and one of the Psalms mentions this. Don't go to bed late. Go to bed at proper time, get up early, and get to work. You'll get more done from 6 to noon than you would have from 10 to 5. Get up and get it done. Leslie knows that, right, Leslie? So true. All right, so there's that. Don't open your eyes, and you will be satisfied with bread. All right, here's another great one. 27, 23 through 27. Be diligent to know the state of your flocks and attend to your herds, for riches are not forever, nor does a crown endure to all generations. When the hay is removed and the tender grass shows itself, and the herbs of the mountains are gathered in, the land will provide your clothing, and the goats the price of a field. You shall have enough goat's milk for your food, for the food of your household, and the nourishment of your maidservants. I think you could summarize the whole proverb in the two words that are used right at the beginning. Talked about it many times, haven't we, all the way through this. Be diligent. This, you got to watch everything. Notice how many things, yes, you got to watch this. There's all these various things that you've got to keep your eye on, because, again, things disintegrate very, very rapidly, and you will have nothing. So that we don't miss this one, skip down to the very last proverb that's in your booklet. And it's got the wrong chapter and verse. I noticed that today. It should be Proverbs 13, verse 11. The quote is correct, but the reference is wrong. 13, verse 11. This is a good one. Wealth gained hastily will dwindle, but he who gathers little by little will increase it. At the very beginning of our lesson, John mentioned this a little bit. Wealth gained hastily. What kind of approach is that?
You tell me to go. It's like what's the statistics on lottery winners is like the vast majority end up more broke than before they were.
You're seeking to get the big jackpot kind of thing. You're seeking to get it this way and that way, and you're following fantasies, and the end result is, even if you got it, it just dwindles quickly. You don't appreciate it.
Work to manage wealth.
Yes.
The more that there is, the more there's management. There's mismanagement.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, whoopee, let's go out and buy a whole bunch. You know, there's very, very famous sports figures that are so poor today they have to work in an Ace Hardware in order to even get by, because they didn't take care of the millions that they were paid to do what they were good at. And that's the way it is. But he who gathers little by little, great principle. Every day, go to work. Gather your little. Store up what you can. Gather little by little. That's the idea. That's Dave Ramsey all over the place, isn't it? That particular proverb. Don't go after the biggie. Just go to work, gather your little, and bring it home. Very important. Chapter 6, verse 6 through 11, so good. Go to the ant, sluggard. Two great things about the ant. The ant's self-disciplined. You know, no overseer. Doesn't have anybody tell him to get to work. He gets up and goes to work. And secondly, he provides in the summer for the time when he cannot gather in the winter. There you go. Two smart things to do. That's what human beings ought to do. Same type of thing. All right, very good. Good job. And next week we will look at family and home relationships. Family and home relationships. Thank you for your participation.